Level 1, -$6. You look at the number twice, waiting for it to correct itself. It doesn't. A streaming subscription renewed itself while you weren't watching. $6. The bank doesn't measure the size of the mistake. It measures the shape of the rule you broke, and the rule says $34. The penalty for having nothing is that you end up with less than nothing. You feel something duller than anger, something closer to exhaustion that lives in your jaw. Then a second charge lands, a $4 app fee you forgot existed, and because you're already under, it costs another $34. You now owe $74 for a $6 mistake you didn't see coming. You call. The hold music plays the same 11 seconds on a loop. A representative reads from a screen and tells you fees at this tier aren't eligible for reversal. You ask for someone above her. She says a callback is scheduled within 2 business days. It never comes. Your rent auto pay bounces the next morning. The property manager adds a $60 fee. Your phone carrier tries twice and fails once, adding $18 for the privilege of failing. What started as $6 is now nearly $200, expanding in directions you never authorized and can't see the edges of. You skip dinner on Thursday, not dramatically, just quietly. You tell your roommate you already ate. You didn't. This kind of hunger doesn't announce itself. It's the kind you get good at hiding. You go into the branch on Saturday. The teller glances at her screen before she looks at you, and something in her face reset. Not cruelty, something with less temperature than that. You watch yourself become a flag on a system rather than a person in front of a desk. You leave without saying what you drove there to say. Somewhere between the $6 charge and the unreturned call, you stopped being a customer and started being a liability with a name attached. Level 2, $300. You're not underwater anymore. It took 18 hours of extra shifts to get here and hold it for 10 days straight. Nobody noticed. The bank notices, but only administratively. A monthly service charge lands anyway, $11 this time, because your balance sits under the $1,500 threshold that would waive it. You are, functionally, paying rent to a bank for the privilege of being broke inside its system. You apply for a credit card and get offered a secured one. Put down $250 of your own dollars as collateral, so they can lend a portion of it back to you at 26% interest. You read the terms twice, unsure if you're misunderstanding the math. You aren't. You decline. 3 weeks later, your alternator dies on a Wednesday morning, and you have nothing to put it on. You take an unpaid day, then 2. Your supervisor doesn't say anything, but the way he looks at you lasts half a second longer than it used to. You go into a branch to dispute the service fee. The teller ahead of you is laughing with a customer about a vacation. When you step up, her expression resets into something practiced and empty. She processes your request in under a minute. No pleasantries, no closing warmth. The next customer gets the smile back instantly, like it was never gone. You weren't insulted. You were just moved through, the way a package is moved through a sorting facility. At $300, the bank doesn't dislike you. It simply hasn't registered that you exist as anything beyond a line of data. Level 3, $2,200. Something about the way the bank behaves shifts, though nothing in your life outside the account has. Your paycheck lands every other Friday, $1,700 after deductions, and it's landed like clockwork for 5 straight months. That consistency is the only variable the system actually tracks. The monthly fee that drained you for 2 years simply stops one day. Nobody tells you why. You check the statement 3 separate times, certain it's an error. It isn't. Your behavior matched a pattern the bank profits from, so the bank lets you keep a little more of what's yours. Pre-approved offers start showing up. Real cards this time, unsecured, with actual limit and predatory but survivable interest. The same institution that rejected your application 7 months ago now addresses you by name in embossed lettering. You apply, and you're approved in under 2 minutes. It's strange, watching a system say yes this fast when it once made you wait weeks to say no. The teller greets you before you reach the counter, not the warmth reserved for someone wealthier, but not the coldness from before either. Something in between. Acknowledgement without investment. You apply for an auto repair loan, $4,000, approved in 3 days at 9%. Not generous, not punishing. You understand something nobody explains up front. The bank was never evaluating your character. It was evaluating your profitability. At $2,200, you've become worth selling to. Level 4, $18,000. You open the app one morning and your credit limit has quietly doubled without a request or application. The bank decided on its own that you could be trusted with more exposure. The next call that comes in isn't automated. It's a person introducing himself as your relationship banker, giving you a direct extension and asking about your 5-year goals. The same institution that left you on hold for 35 minutes at $300 is now calling you unprompted on a Tuesday morning. Loan pricing shifts too. The same used car loan that would have cost you 9% at the last tier now prices at 5.5%. The cost of borrowing didn't drop because you negotiated. It dropped because the risk model reclassified you. A $28 fee appears on your statement. You email your banker. 2 hours later, it's gone. No explanation required, no phone tree. Just a short reply that says it's handled. The fees that used to bury you are optional now, available only to people who no longer really need the leniency. You start receiving emails that spell your name correctly, personalized subject lines, small gestures of attention. You realize something that was invisible from every level below this one. The bank was never hostile toward you when you had nothing. It was indifferent, and indifference, at enough scale, is indistinguishable from cruelty. Level 5, $90,000. The bank starts calling you a preferred client and the word appears everywhere. The login screen, your statements, your banker's email signature. You didn't earn a title, a number did. Your relationship banker has a name now, Marcus, and he knows you have a brother in Denver because you mentioned it in passing 8 months ago. He emails on your birthday and it's clearly not automated. The personal touch is trained into him, not spontaneous. The bank teaches its people to remember small details because small details retain large account. You walk into a branch and a man in an office with his name on the door stands to greet you personally, guiding you past a roped off line you once stood in yourself without realizing what it meant. A pre-approval letter arrives for a mortgage you never applied for. The bank decided your affordability before you decided on a house. A competing bank calls offering to beat your rates. You mention it to Marcus and he calls back within the hour with a counteroffer already built. The institution that once ignored you for years is now actively competing to keep you. At $90,000, you're no longer just preferred. You're worth defending. Level 6, $600,000. The bank stopped being somewhere you go. It becomes something that comes to you. Marcus stops emailing and starts calling directly, and the calls aren't check-ins anymore. They're invitations, this time to meet a colleague from wealth management. That colleague drives out to your office rather than the reverse, carrying printed reports in a leather folder, asking about your timeline, your tax exposure, your long-term estate structure. The meeting runs 90 minutes and ends without a single sales pitch. The selling already happened somewhere in the conversation, so quietly you didn't register it as selling. You're not being offered products anymore. You're being consulted, and the distinction matters. A product is something the bank hopes you'll buy one. A consultation is something the bank wants you to keep needing. A wire transfer freezes and you call about it. Someone picks up on the second ring, no hold music, and it's resolved in that same call. A process that would have taken 3 transfers and 3 hours 2 tiers ago. You're invited to a private dinner the bank hosts for 8 clients, a guest speaker, a skyline view you've never seen from this particular angle. Nobody mentions money the entire evening. At $600,000, you're not a customer being served. You're an asset being protected. Level 7, $6 million. Private banking sounds like wealth management, but isn't. You don't have a banker anymore. You have a private banker managing fewer than 20 accounts, and yours is one of them. It's at a reception hosted by the private banking division, glass of sparkling water in your hand, when an older man in a gray 3-piece suit and a deep green tie approaches you. He's tall, slightly stooped, silver hair combed back, a pocket watch chain visible at his vest. He introduces himself as Elias Marchetti, and something about the way he says your name makes you look twice. You worked the loading dock at Halloway Freight, he says. 9-10 years back, I owned the company that leased that warehouse. You remember him now? Vaguely, a quiet older man who used to walk the floor asking drivers how their families were doing, who once helped you jump your car in the parking lot at midnight without ever mentioning who he was. You were saving everything you made, he says. Wouldn't take a ride home so you could bank the bus fare. I always wondered if you kept it up. You tell him you did. He nods slowly, like a man confirming something he'd bet on years ago. I'm putting together a fund, he says. Not a foundation with my name on a building. A fund that gives people exactly what nobody gave either of us early. Access. At the moment, it would have mattered most. I want you to help me run it. You understand the floor. Most people who reach this room have forgotten what the floor felt like. It isn't charity, and it isn't a job offer in the traditional sense. It's a door held open by someone who remembers what it costs to find one closed. You say yes before you fully thought it through, because some part of you has been waiting a long time for someone to ask. Level 8, $25 million. You don't have a banker anymore. You have a relationship, and the difference between those two words is the distance between this level and everyone beneath it. But the number stopped being the point somewhere around the day Elias first called you into his office with the shipping crate desk and the view of the harbor. The fund launched 18 months ago. It doesn't publish glossy report. It finds people the way Elias found you, quietly, one file at a time, someone with a $6 overdraft and no one calling to ask if they're all right. It covers a security deposit here, co-signs a small business loan there, pays off a predatory secured card before the interest compounds into something unpayable. You still remember the exact shape of $74 you didn't have. You use that memory on purpose now, the way Elias once used his, not as a wound to reopen, but as a compass. Somewhere, right now, someone is staring at a screen with a minus sign in front of it. They went under by $6. The fee hits within the hour. They feel something duller than anger. They call, and the hold music loops. But this time, buried in a stack of flagged accounts a caseworker reviews every Thursday morning, their name appears on a list Elias built and you now run. A callback is scheduled, not in 48 hours that never comes, but tomorrow, from a real person, offering to cover the fee and set up the account so it never happens again. The bank never really changes at any level. It answers to what's printed next to your name, but you've learned something Elias tried to tell you the first night you talked, standing by the harbor windows with the fund's first name still unwritten on a whiteboard behind him. The number was never going to save you. What you did with it was always the only part that could.